Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, you know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, but Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. This episode is made possible by Red H Nutrition. Red H Nutrition is your one-stop shop for nutrition and wellness supplements. You can check them out in the show notes, and don't forget to use code RUNLIFTMOM, RUNLIFTMOM, at checkout to save 10%. Also, if you stick around to the end of the episode, you'll hear me interview the owner of Red H Nutrition about one of my favorite products. And as always, I'm a Zaya Active representative, so don't forget to get on my New Release Wednesday text message. Yeah, you heard me right. By going to newreleasewednesday.com, put in your phone number, and then you don't have to scroll social media all day come Wednesdays. I'm going to send you my favorite directly to your phone. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. We are hitting on all 3 today with Core 4 author Steph Gaudreau. I've got Steph on to talk about the second pillar in her book, Strengthening Your Body. That's right, we're talking about moving with intention, and you guys know Steph is your people when she says you should not be punishing yourself with exercise. You probably know Steph. You've either made a recipe of hers in the last 5 years, or you at least have one, pinned to a board somewhere. She also believes that we shouldn't diet ourselves into oblivion, and she's a very capable teacher, host of Harder to Kill Radio, and wonderful role model for the next generation. Let's get on board with what Steph's self-empowering message is. Let's learn about it. Let's spread it. Without further ado, you guys, Steph Gaudreau. All right, Steph, welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I have been following you since the days of Stupid Easy Paleo, but if my audience isn't familiar with you, I don't want to introduce you as the paleo woman. They've heard your many accolades and kind of where you are. I am so thrilled to have you after just digging through your book, Core 4.
Yeah, thank you. I think if I could sum up what I do in a brief sentence, it would be to help women embrace their bodies and own their power and realize how amazing they are. And we need more of that in the world.
I love that. I want to read just a line from your book. And I actually heard you say on your own Harder to Kill Radio that it was the last thing that you put in, but it's the first. If someone gets your book and they open up the introduction, they're at the Barnes & Noble. Guys, Run Lift Mom listeners, this is what you're going to hear. I have a vision that someday little girls will grow up into strong women who love their bodies, know their worth, and take up space without the pressure of diets, the scale, or exercise as punishment. Whoa, Steph, those are powerful words.
Yeah, it purely comes from 2 places. One, my own personal experience. And I think those of us who are out in the world with podcasts and teaching, we oftentimes teach what we've been through and what we've come out the other side of. And 2, I know that this is something that so many women are struggling with, whether it's moms, women who haven't had kids yet. I mean, it's just something that affects all of us. And I think if I can look forward to what would my legacy be? What would I hope I can leave an impression on in the world? It's just to help women and help girls grow up into women who are self-assured and who are they do realize that there's so much more than having a perfect body, and that they have gifts and talents, and they're special and they're worthy and they have value no matter what their size is.
Oh, I love it. As I've got a little girl myself, and I just love that there are role models like you in the world. And, also offering principles that I can teach my daughter. I want to actually dig in a little bit. Now, the Core 4, as the name would suggest, guys, really talks about 4 different pillars, and it's really a holistic well-being. Steph, you're going to be able to explain that better than I can. I want to focus on move with intention, that pillar today. Do you mind kind of just briefing us on what that move with intention means?
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways that you can interpret it. And one of the things I really tried to do in the Core 4, and these are the pillars I've been teaching now for years, I've really tried to provide these frameworks, not specific rules or prescriptions, but frameworks for people to really explore how to incorporate these things in their lives. And so when I talk about move with intention, that could mean some different things. I think ultimately my goal is to help women be more intuitive with their movement and to be able to, just like, intuitively eating and being able to listen to your body and pay attention to your body's signs and signals and sensations. I would love for people to develop that same capacity when it comes to their physical movement. And so relying less on strict rules and, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. And then the dissonance that occurs, right? Like, let's say you're a new mom, you just had a baby. I mean, hats off to you. You're a warrior as it is. And then thinking about, well, this was the fitness program that I did before I had my baby, so I should be able to get back to this. And by the way, do it within like 6 weeks, which is such a huge pressure on new moms, right? And so I think if I can help women through this book learn how to listen to their body a little bit more, figure out what's right for them. If they're so tired and exhausted, then maybe doing really high intensity, punishing workout day after day isn't going to be their best fit. And it's okay to walk, or it's okay to do some pelvic floor work or some static strengthening work or whatever that looks like for them. And in the book, I talk about the difference between, strength training, why strength training is so valuable and beneficial. And I also talk about cardiovascular movement and why that's important. But if you have very little time, which is going to be a lot of your listeners, how to do it in a way that's probably a little bit more bang for your buck. And then I also talk about taking care of your physical body and doing some of the different maintenance on your body to make sure that you feel good. Because I think at the end of the day, we want to feel better and use movement as a way to do that. So looking at how to essentially do maintenance on yourself, which is really important. And the last piece of that, which is to observe the mental benefit that you get from things like strength training or resistance training, or even whatever your chosen modality of movement is. I mean, what is the mental and emotional benefit that you're getting from that? Because it's not always just physical strength. It's mood, and it's being able to move stress through your body and process emotions and increase your confidence and feel more capable in your body every single day.
Listeners of this show will know my personal story, and that I am a triplet mom, and I tried to go back to work after the triplets came. That was a big, stupid idea. But when I quit my job and became a stay-at-home mom to be fully invested in motherhood, motherhood is crazy. It's never the same thing. And I really found a comfort. So you're talking about those emotional benefits. I really found a comfort in saying, okay, this is my workout. I mark it off. I have achieved that. I do not know what's going to happen in the day. I don't know if I'm going to have any more wins today, but I did this workout that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I always say when women tell me that they're a stay-at-home mom, I say, I think it's more like a household CEO where right, you're wearing so many different hats, and it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work, and it's very tiring. So there's that. And then I also think, there is an aspect of moving with intention, and throughout all the different pillars that I talk about, of having compassion for yourself.
Can you go into a little bit more there? I mean, I'll tell you, I have a lot of girlfriends. Just today, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend who has birthed 2 human beings. She has completed a half Ironman, and she still feels weird about wearing leggings.
Yeah. It's so hard, right? As women, we're constantly up against messaging from the outside world and perhaps how we were socialized and what we see reinforced in the media and social media. And it's easy to paint a really perfect picture of what we should be doing, what we should look like. And then we forget that our lives are not the same as everybody else's lives, and our bodies aren't the same as everybody else's bodies. And that can really lead to a lot of comparison, not just with other people, but with your former self. And I see this with a lot of the women in my community as well. I'm not a mom, but I work with a lot of women who have their own children. And it's that constant struggle of, I was able to do X, Y, Z, or I looked like this before I had my baby. And now my life is different. My body's different. And I just wish I could get back to where I used to be. And that's a huge struggle mentally for a lot of people. And I think the self-compassion piece comes in with not beating yourself up for where you used to be, with having more grace and acceptance of where you are now. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to not want to change, because certainly, we can always strive for different things. We can work toward goals. We can try to improve our skills. And I think that's totally fine. But it's the amount of pain that you want to put yourself through with constant comparison. And so the self-compassion piece is just, what would you say to your best friend who's going through something similar? What would you say to a child if you were trying to comfort them? You wouldn't yell at them and say, I can't believe you're not ready to go back to, CrossFit yet, or I can't believe you're not ready to run a marathon yet. You would never talk to your most loved ones that way. And if we can talk to ourselves with more compassion, we're able to better stay present and meet ourselves now and make change from a place of love and self-care, instead of what I call the negative motivation, which is like, you're never good enough and you're never going to be good enough, and all those things that go through our heads.
Right. Oftentimes, if we can't check it, that self-talk becomes negative instead of loving, which is absolutely what we need. I love that point.
Yeah.
You talked about intuitive movement. Can I get you to expand on what that means? I think I know, being a former CrossFitter who would grind herself into the ground because of what the person next to me was doing. Can I get you to clarify there, though?
For sure. So, in intuitive eating, for example, there's a term that's often used, and it's not specific to intuitive eating, but it is part of the framework, which is called interoceptive awareness or interreception. And those two terms mean the same thing. And an example of interoception that everybody knows and can relate to is, my bladder's really full and I need to go to the bathroom. So, right. But when it comes to things like eating, oftentimes we lose those signals. We stop paying attention, or we don't know how to find them anymore. And I think the same thing is very true for movement, in such a way that if my muscles are sore, there's a difference between I'm a little bit sore and I can still function, and, oh, wow, I gave myself DOMS with that workout and I have to do the toilet trust fall and I can barely sit down. Right? I can barely sit down without grasping for support, and my whole body feels heavy, or my muscles actually feel a little bit swollen, or my joints really hurt, or gosh, I went to pick up that barbell, which normally feels like pretty good, and today it feels way heavier than it should. And noticing when even your cardiovascular system isn't quite on track. And there are certainly ways that you can do that with technology. For example, you can track your heart rate variability if you are really doing a lot of endurance sports, for example. That's a really great way to say, hey, my body's not actually very recovered today because my heart rate is still too high. And so there are those quantitative measures of that. But I think qualitatively, the more we can tap into those interoceptive signals and how our body feels, the better guidance we're able to give ourselves, and the more, again, grace and compassion we're able to have for that day where, we didn't get very much sleep and our body is just so tired and exhausted. And it's not our brain that's protesting, because oftentimes we can override that. It's really our body just feels like we are not ready to participate in any kind of hardcore movement. Can I make it easier? Can I make it less intense? Maybe I need to take a day off, and that's okay.
So do you recommend, like, let's say I'm a new mother, my doctor has given me a release to resume, exercise. I don't know, I've got a 2-month-old at home. Do you recommend that folks like journal or try to make some of those qualitative things quantitative so they can get a baseline and kind of know what the new normal is?
Yeah, I think it's certainly if you're postpartum, you need to obviously, like you said, pay attention to your practitioner and what they're saying. I mean, if you have anything like pelvic floor strengthening that needs to be done, which is most women after they've given birth. I mean, really starting to think about how to do that. There are so many rehabilitative programs that are really amazing, getting moms moving, not necessarily a lot of because even walking or running can be really hard on a new mom's body, even if they've gotten clearance from their doctor. And I would just say, overall is journaling is a really great thing to do, or even just awareness of the body. And in a lot of the examples, like I said, I give are from intuitive eating, but one of the exercises that people can do is learn how to sense their own heart rate without actually taking their pulse. So normally, we can take our pulse at our wrists or in our neck, and we can count the number of beats and record how many times we feel a beat in a minute. And you can certainly do that. But one of the really easy, and I say easy, it's simple, but not always easy for people, is to start trying to sense that heartbeat without actually taking their pulse physically with their fingers. So that's a very simple way. I mean, can you spend a few minutes a day just trying to observe quietly your own heartbeat? And there are, as I mentioned, different things that you can think about as well with your body. You could pay attention to, how sore do I feel? And you develop your own scale for that stuff, because no one knows what your own body feels like. And hopefully you don't have to get to the point of being so sore that you need the toilet trust fall. And maybe that's your 10. And so you get a sense of, 0 is I have no soreness at all. And 10 is I have to do the toilet trust fall because my quads are so sore that I can't sit down.
Right.
And then you develop your own scale for your own body. And I think that that's a really valuable exercise for
I
people
dig
to do.
this. And now I understand what you mean by intuitive movement. If we do have any new moms that are in that exact scenario, you guys, I'm going to link to episode 17. That was a pelvic floor health episode with Ashley Gammon, the Mutu Pro. So you guys will be able to dig in right there. Boy, I've got all sorts of things in my vernacular now. The toilet trust fall, the household CEO. This is rocking. Steph, you have placed, you've got in your book, so of course this movement with intention is a part of the core for and one of the pillars, but you've actually got workouts in your book, and they're placed into different levels. Can you speak to what happens? Let's say that I am starting on a level 1 and I am rocking and rolling for 4 or 5 days, and then life happens. Am I what then? Am I back at 1, or how am I following this programming?
For sure. My general philosophy is that life is always going to happen. And the more perfect we try, and rigid we try to hold to things, there's always going to be something that comes up and throws a cream pie in our faces. So I think for the most part, unless your break is really extensive for whatever reason, and certainly being reasonable with where you start back is important. For example, I've taken a little bit of time off of squatting with barbell. I've been trying to work on some core stability stuff for myself. I've got I've got a lazy oblique on the right side, and sometimes I get back pain. So I was taking some time off. Now, if I was going to get resumed with barbell work, I wouldn't just jump in with my 90% of my back squat, right? So I would be reasonable there. But I think in general, we can still continue moving forward. And so one of my philosophies is you don't get to day 7 and then just say, I skipped a day or 2 or 3. I need to go back to day 1. Let's just keep moving and it's going to be fine. And so in the book, I've got 2 different levels of programming. One is a barbell program that people that are familiar with lifting in that way can do. But I think for most women, especially if they've had a break or they don't feel comfortable joining a gym or they can't find childcare and they just want to do something at home, there is a dumbbell-based program in the book, and it's all sequenced out so that we start you off more slowly, we get you ready, we get you exposed to some of the movements, and over time we make them more challenging so that it grows with you. And as you go, you develop more skills, you continue to progress so that you are feeling that beneficial adaptation, which is getting stronger or improving your stability or whatever that looks like. So there are ways to do it at home. I mean, I do it on my front porch all the time. I've got just this tiny little area and I've got a few dumbbells or kettlebells and I just go outside and do some functional movement.
My listeners have heard me say consistency, then intensity, then intensity with a lot of things. And so as you're describing this, it kind of reminds me of that mantra.
Absolutely. I think there's a tendency to, and I think it's normal. We get a little bit excited. It's new, it's novel, and it's oftentimes at the beginning really alluring to think, okay, I'm just going to go really hard. But then sometimes you do end up incredibly sore, or something didn't work for your body and you just missed it or whatnot. So yeah, I love that too. I think it's really important to build those great movement patterns. And in the book, I start people off with body weight. And there's a whole week of body weight stuff, which then you can turn into warm-ups and so on and so forth. But hey, if you need to stay there for a little bit longer and work on your form and technique, and then potentially add some weight or add more weight or make the movement more challenging by scaling it up, that's always available to you.
I love that. I mean, really, this Move with Intention is all about taking care of your physical body, which, guys, will help your quality of life. One of the things I love, Steph, that you've included is like schedule in other activities that you love, things that you legit love to do. Do you mind speaking to that for a second?
For sure. Everybody always asks me, what's the best exercise to do? And while I am partial to strength training. However, there are other things that I do. I think, core work or however you work that in is really important. Walking or whatever your preferred method of low intensity cardio is great. But what I'm most concerned with is what people like to do so that they are consistent and that they stay with it. Because if it's really something you don't like, it's going to be a battle, number one. Right. Number two, you're going to always find a reason why you don't want to do it. And number three, it's unlikely that over the long run, it's going to make a consistent appearance in your life. And I would rather somebody say, you know what, right now, my favorite thing is, I don't even know, Zumba. And that's great. There's maybe no weight training in Zumba. That's fine. But if somebody can make that effort and they get to the class and there's childcare, and then that makes them know that they can go and they can have their 1 hour of uninterrupted time, and they're able to do that and feel connected because they met a mom there who's in the same place that they are. That's wonderful. Keep that up. Do those things that you can show up for and be consistent with, and ultimately that's going to give you such great benefit rather than being very sporadic and intermittent with other things that you try because you really don't like it.
I love it. I will, you guys, so if folks follow me on Instagram, they know that I gave my husband a really hard time for buying a mace. You guys, I'm going to put this in a hyperlink so you can see what this looks like. So he gets this mace for our garage gym, and I gave him a really hard time about it. But then he made the very fair point that is very similar to what you're making, Steph. And it's like, if he uses that thing every day, it's the least expensive thing in our garage. Whereas a jump rope that costs maybe $20, if you never use it, it's the most expensive thing in your home gym.
For sure. There's definitely an aspect, I think, and it's really dependent on your personality, I think, with what's motivating to you. For example, I go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I pay $140 a month. So for me, as somebody who's a money conscious person, I'm going to go because I know that that's a motivator, right? I know that I have some skin in the game. And I can't say that's the same for every other person, but for some people who, maybe they get a membership to just a big box, 24-hour gym or whatever that looks like, but they're paying $15 a month. There's maybe not so much of a sting there, right? They're not as invested. Maybe though, on the other hand, they have a childcare facility and that is really motivating to you. So I think it depends on the person. of what's motivating, but there has to be some kind of skin in the game for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times if you're going to keep showing up for that movement.
Good call. Good call. I'm telling you a lot about Mr. Run Lift Mom just by his mode of exercise, aren't I?
Well, I've got kettlebells on the porch, so I can relate.
Fact. So I want to close this out with some rapid fire. And these are just some fun things that I do with all of the wonderful guests that come on this show. Can you tell me first, Steph, what is your favorite book to gift besides Core 4, obviously?
Oh my goodness. That's a tough one because I love books and I really try, if I give them to people, to personalize them because I have a pretty extensive arsenal of books. In my
what
house
is one that you've given often?
Of course, nothing is coming to my brain right now. Can I think about it and I'll tell you by the end?
Well, and I can even ask you a burning question that I have that did not make the rapid fire.
Okay.
I would love, and you triggered it when you said kettlebell on the front porch.
Mm-hmm.
I love the front of your book. You know, I've been in wellness for over a decade now. And I've seen a lot of books, mainstream type books, and they've got the author and her six pack, and she's like in a bikini or like a sports bra and some shorty shorts. Was this a conscious decision to not go that route, to kind of go counterculture?
Yes, it was. I was lucky I had a lot of say in the actual design of what the cover would look like and the feel that we wanted to have. And it was a very conscious decision to put myself in not only the clothing that I was wearing, because it's really not showing very much of my midsection or anything like that. I'm not wearing shorts, but to also show me doing something in being in kind of a dynamic position. So it looks like I'm about to start swinging a kettlebell. And we did that specifically to put more emphasis on the doing of things and not of the achieving a specific aesthetic. And I really did not want women to pick this book up and see me and say, if only I looked like that, my life would be so much better.
Oh, I just love that. And depending on where people are listening, they might see the tile for this show, which will be, they'll see you here. You've got your Chucks on. You've got a very kind of unassuming just tank and black leggings. But you're right. It's like a power position, but it's almost like focused on the performance as opposed to the outcome.
Yeah, it's really great. I have a lot of moms in my community, and one of them posted the picture of the book yesterday with her daughter, and her daughter is maybe 4, and her daughter was trying to imitate the pose that I was doing on the book. And she said, my daughter said, that lady looks strong. And yeah, all right. My heart just like melted because I think, I wanted, and I do want women to pick up this book because of the message of what the subtitle is. I think it's really important as well, which took forever to think about what we wanted to say there. But I wanted the book to be, I guess, aspirational, but not in a negative way in terms of, if only I looked like that, I'd be happy. Or if only I looked like that, my life would be so much better. But rather to say, what would it feel like to be stronger? Or what would it feel like to finally embrace who I am? Or what would it feel like to step into this sense of powerfulness that maybe I've lost? I mean, I really wanted that to be something that came across.
Oh, well, in your words, strong women who love their bodies, know their worth, and take up space without the pressure of diet, scale, or exercise as punishment. You nailed it. You totally nailed it.
Thanks.
Oh, Steph, this has been so awesome. I really appreciate just you coming on this show to speak with me. I know this is going to be very aspirational for my listeners. I'm going to drop all of your details in the show notes so they can connect with you on your audio show as well as grab this book.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steph, for coming on this show and teaching us phrases like household CEO and toilet trust fall. I love your message, which is counterculture to what we see oftentimes on social media or in main media. And that is, you should want to be healthy, to be powerful, and to be capable, and to be the best you, not to fit into somebody else's box. You guys, in the show notes, I have linked to all of Steph's stuff where you can find her online. I want to point out that she's got a private community where you can work with her on the core 4 pillars of health, not just move with intention. It goes plenty deeper than even the book does, and she's been coaching folks through it with success for the last 4 years. Thank you, Steph, for coming on Run Lift Mom. And everyone, until I get into your earpiece again, remember, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. All right, I've got Katie Danger with Red H Nutrition. Katie, you know I am a runner first and foremost. I'm doing anywhere from 20 to 40 miles per week. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. Tell me about Superflexi.
Superflexi is great for anybody who is active, has a few aches and pains in their joint and tissues, and wants to combat that with a all-in-one full-strength joint and tissue support. It's got turmeric, it's got glucosamine and chondroitin, it's got collagen type 2. So what you're looking at here is a full and total spectrum support for any inflammation you have with your joints and tissues. It's going to help you improve your range of motion, and you're going to just feel better doing what you love.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you don't have to be a runner to benefit from Superflexi.
No, it doesn't matter what you do. In fact, even if you only work out 3 times a day, light cardio, maybe you're just a walker, if you want to feel better and you want your joints and tissues to move the way you want them to, Superflexi is essential.
Oh,
For my
tell me what it is, because you know what? I'll chop it off and then I'll make it like a little outtake. I'm for real.
Yeah, I probably the book that I love the most to give is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I just think it's such a great,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I totally thought you were going to tell me like From Russia with Love by Pavel Sasulini, or I don't know. I thought you were going to tell me an exercise book. You're awesome.
No, I'm a little bit more emotional and squishy than most people think.
Well, thank you for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. This is a passion project of mine, and it started back in February of 2019. I simply wanted to uplift other women in the areas of running, lifting, and motherhood, and now I've got a Rolodex of inspiring guests that I can call friends. I'm having so much fun with this, and you can help. Rate, review, and subscribe. That helps people find the show. It keeps this great momentum going. You guys, I'm thrilled to announce a new partner on Run Lift Mom, and that is Audible. I've been an Audible member for over 10 years, and my favorite part, hands down, it's the gift of time. I use the free app to take notes as I'm doing my long run and I hear something fantastic, and you are going to love it. If you want to try Audible free, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. That's RUNLIFTMOM. Again, for a free trial, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom.